Good evening, you're watching The Social Network on NDTV 24/7. I'm Kajari Sen, and today we're talking about something which will affect the lives of travelers, students, many people across the country, and that is the new visa bond that the United Kingdom is planning to implement in 6 particular countries. 6 countries, including India, chosen because, and I quote, they are seen as being high risk, as having a high risk migrant population. What does this mean? It essentially means if you want to travel, you will have to pay a 3 lakh bond. That will be decided completely by the authorities in England. The 3 lakh bond will be paid. If you outstay your welcome, you will of course not just lose the money, you will also be arrested. But how many of us can put 3 lakhs together, and why were these 6 countries chosen? We are going to be discussing that with our panel of guests. Joining us in the studio, I have Hemchandran Kara, the Associate Fellow at CSDS. Also joining me on Skype, Mehdi Hassan, the Political Director of the Huffington Post UK, and our other guests also on the phone and on Skype with us. We will be talking about that in just a moment, but first up, let's bring you our top story coming in from Kashmir, and it's a grim militant attack there that we are tracking for you. Army convoy being attacked by militants, and according to the latest details that we have coming in, there have been deaths, at least 2, if not as many as 4 Jawans who have been killed in this militant attack which took place on the outskirts of Srinagar. We are bringing you the latest details. It's particularly significant that this attack took place at this time because it's just a day before the Prime Minister's visit. Militants opened fire on this army vehicle near Bamina on the outskirts of Srinagar. According to details, 4 Jawans killed, at least 11 injured. The vehicle, according to the details we have coming in, was riddled with bullets. The gunmen fired from both sides through a grenade into the army vehicle and then fled the spot. Now, there are reports coming in also that the militants opened fire at several other places in Srinagar after fleeing Bamina. The army has cordoned the area off and is conducting search operations. A motorcycle believed to be used by militants has been recovered. Reminder, this is the 2nd attack in Srinagar in just the last 2 days. The city has been on high alert after militants shot dead 2 policemen on Saturday. Now, for the latest attack, the HIZBUL MUJAHIDEEN has claimed responsibility. Meanwhile, security continues to be tightened in view of the Prime Minister's visit, which is going to take place tomorrow morning. So far, we know that Dr. Singh's program does remain unchanged, but a grim reminder there coming in, very chilling indeed, that the threat of militancy, very real, very alive in the valley. So that is the big story that we are tracking for you. We will of course continue to track that for you on NDTV 24/7. Time now to go back to the social network, and as we were saying, we've got the Political Director of the Huffington Post, Mehdi Hassan, with us on Skype. We also have with us Professor from JNU, Rohit, who's joining us on Skype as well. Let's start by taking this question to Mehdi Hassan. Mehdi, what we've been seeing over the last about 15 years or so are very mixed signals coming in from the authorities in the United Kingdom over when it comes to immigration. Over the last couple of years with the David Cameron government, the message has been less unclear. It is just a very simple crackdown. The question is, who is the crackdown on, and are they targeting the right people?
Well, this is one of the coalition governments. It's a coalition here between the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats. It's one of their red lines to bring down net migration to, quote, the tens of thousands. When the coalition came to power, there were net migration stood at something like 250,000, and they see it as a vote-winning move. It's a very divisive subject here in the UK. It's something that troubles a lot of people. All of the polls suggest that the British public are very anti-immigration at the moment, very hostile to the large number of people coming in. And David Cameron and his Home Secretary, Theresa May, promised to bring net migration down to the tens of thousands. Of course, they can't touch people coming in from the EU because that would fall foul of European Union free movement legislation, so they can only target people from outside the EU. And this move now, which has been announced over the weekend, which targets these 6 countries in South Asia and Africa, is going to be very controversial, of course, because it doesn't target anyone from any white countries. many white-skinned countries. They're all dark-skinned people coming into the country. This move, of course, was rejected in Canada, where it fell afoul of its human rights laws because it was seen as discriminatory towards a certain set of immigrants.
What we see, Mehdi, from the information coming to us from the British High Commission, their official statement, it seems that they're saying high-risk communities in high-risk countries, nobody really knows how high risk is defined. When you're saying that it is at the discretion of the British government and the British authorities to take a call on who can and cannot come in and who has to pay and who doesn't have to pay, isn't it racial profiling?
Well, that is one argument. There's definitely an element of profiling because they're saying they won't target all of the people coming from these countries. I think last year something like 450,000 people came from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nigeria, and Ghana, these 6 targeted countries. They're saying they're going to target at the beginning when it starts in November, hundreds, not thousands. How will they pick these hundreds? You're right. We don't know how they're going to pick these people out. The Home Office claim here in the UK is that these countries are responsible for a high level of fraud and abuse of people overstaying their visas, in particular students from the subcontinent, but they haven't given us any numbers. They say their intelligence, their studies are not for public use, so we don't even know what levels of fraud and abuse are driving this policy. There's also a financial aspect, of course. It's not just racial profiling, you could argue. It's also a class-based or income-based profiling. How are people from poorer countries supposed to produce £3,000 sterling